What is going on, guys? This is obviously Jordan here with another episode, installment, whatever, of the Opinion Corner series with the notorious red curtains and the cramped corner and a small desk, whatever. Doesn't matter. I got a ball here. I got trainers here. I'm wearing one of the greatest kits of all time. This is my love-hate relationship with football. Obviously, I'm an Arsenal fan. If you haven't already guessed from the kit, but this isn't really going to be an Arsenal specific video. It's more about my wider, deeper thoughts and reflections on the game, on the state of football, and I don't know. I think it's gonna be quite interesting. I do want to hear what people have to say about it. As always, this is me speaking for me. I'm not speaking on behalf of Arsenal fans or anyone else. This is just my opinion. Hence, my corner. If you have any other takes, find your own corner down below in the comments somewhere. But yeah, let's talk about it. I do have. It's not really notes. I mean, you can see that there. It's like, can you see that? The light is really ruining what I'm trying to do here, but it's like, wow, my phone is infinitely bright right now. But I have some sort of structure. It's very loose. Obviously, the whole point of the series is that it's literally just me sitting down in a corner talking smack for half an hour or so. But I did want to have some sort of loose structure for this video. So just to get off the bat, I'm going to talk about like my history first, like provide some sort of context, then a bit of a transitional phase for me, and then the end of the video, the longest part in theory should be my problem with the game today, and then discussing my love-hate relationship with the game. So with that out of the way, let's start by talking about my history, how I got into football, and my early love for the game. So for me, obviously, I'm an Arsenal fan. You can see I've got these boots here. I mean, these are AstroTurf, but they're still technically boots, I guess. Very beaten up, very well used. This ball, I don't really want to touch it and redo my set. Actually, it doesn't matter, it's fine. But you can see it's got a couple of years on it. It's been around. And that's kind of the name. Like, I love the game. I love the game. Ball is life. I've always been into football. Like, I come from an Arsenal family, but I say so. My dad's an Arsenal fan. I can't speak on the rest of I don't really see them or speak to them very much. But my dad's an Arsenal fan. I grew up going to Arsenal games. Sadly, I didn't go to any games in Highbury, which I'm really spiteful for. Like, I would have loved to have gone to. Obviously, now I'm older. I appreciate what Highbury was and how incredible our teams were back in the days. Going to seeing the Emirates Cup isn't quite the same as going to see the Invincible run or something, but that's okay. That's conversation for another day. Obviously, no one could have predicted Arsenal would be this bad moving forward, but whatever. That's another video to talk. If you want to hear more about my footballing views, check out the Halftime Tangerines podcast. It's quite bad right now. We're quite slow, but hopefully by me coming at Brian in publicly, that will encourage us to put out a new episode in the coming days. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I do. Obviously, I have thoughts of football, but this is going to be more again about my history of the game. And as I said, always been, as long as I can remember, been an Arsenal fan. Been going to games, watch almost every game. I have almost every opinion on almost every player in the team. But it's like, what beyond Arsenal, what kind of drove me into it? I feel like to some degree it was societal. Like, I don't know, I can't speak on behalf of other cultures. I've only ever lived in the UK, but I feel like as a male, men are kind of seen as, by social norms, we're seen as the physical ones, the athletic ones. So therefore, we've always been kind of forced, not necessarily forced, but they're pushed into a route of like football, basketball, some sort of sport, some sort of athletic activity, athletic game, whatever, some sort of athletic thing. And that obviously applied to me as well. Like almost every guy I know, bar like two. I think it's like literally two guys at the top of my head that I know that aren't into any sports. Otherwise, everyone's into football, and or some others. Basketball, boxing. I was going to say netball, and I don't know a single guy in the world is into netball. But anyway, I'm going on a tangent. But I've always kind of been in that route. I think just by nature as being a male, but also just by being, I'm not good per se, but like I'm good enough to be able to enjoy it consistently without like getting slapped up. Like, I'm competitive as well, which meant that if I wasn't good at football, same way I'm not very good at basketball, like my competitive nature is like, I'm not going to get any better. I'm like 5'8". I'm just going to have to call it a day here. Whereas like in football, like I could, I have a couple of physical attributes that benefit me in the game, which we'll talk about a bit more in a sec anyway, but I'm relatively quick, so I can, being physically fast in football is a good trait to have, for example. So I could get by. I played it a lot. I enjoyed it a lot. You can tell by my boots and by the sport. I'm very into football. In school, even, we started something called the John Proctor Cup. Every PE lesson from year 10 and 11, for some reason, my teachers just got bored. It's like, you know what? just play football. Don't bother with anything else in PE. Just play football every day, every week. And we started something called the John Proctor Cup. That was initially in PE. It was like the guys who did GCSE PE and the guys who didn't do GCSE PE. Well, we became FC Squeezy, but it was like FC Squeezy versus GCSE PE. It was just play. And our way of keeping like a scoring system was to call it the John Proctor Cup. Obviously, someone won that in the end. I'm not gonna say anything other than that, but that was fun. The JP Cup. That even expanded, transcended our PE group into the rest of the year group. We played like A side versus B side. The Basmati Bandits were a team. Squeezy, of course, remained a team, and it's very fun. It's very passionate. It's very wholesome, and I feel like football is inherently quite a nice, family orientated, wholesome kind of experience. It's always been like a personable, the working class sport for It's accessible for anyone, everyone. It doesn't really matter if you're black, white, tall, small, even women. I know a lot of girls in my school who weren't the best. Obviously, they weren't. Obviously, if you're comparing the top of the top guys to the top of the top girls, there's a gap. But if you put everyone in a pool, there are some, girls are amongst the guys in many capacities. It's not really talked about as much in the professional level because there is a massive gap there, mostly because of money, which we'll go into in a sec anyway. But it's always been quite interesting. But for me, as I said, I've always been into the game. I've always played it a lot. I watch almost every Arsenal game, super into it. But that background, me playing in school is kind of where my illustrious background of the game and my love and passion for the game kind of like reaches its peak, which we'll talk about now. Literally now. I'm not gonna. Yeah, now. So for me, like before I talk about my specific problems with the game, I want to talk about my I guess 1 year period in history where I kind of transitioned away from the game, and my purple haze kind of like disappeared a little bit, and a lot of that comes down to like ironically discrimination, not necessarily racism, but discrimination. To be fair, mostly just racism. To be fair, like it's kind of the big part, but yeah. Spoiler alert. Anyway, for me, like as I said, I was relatively good at the game, but I was never like incredible. But I gradually, like my love for football, my love for Arsenal as well. I said I watched a lot of games. I look at the greats, some of the greatest Arsenal players of all time. You see like Patrick Vieira, you see Thierry Henry, two black players. You see Dennis Bergkamp, he's white, but he's Dutch. He's foreign, I guess, from a UK standpoint. You see guys like Cashley Cole, one of the greatest left backs ever. Sol Campbell is one of the greatest centre backs of all time. Like a lot of black players, a lot of diversity. I think Arsenal under Arsene Wenger was one of the first teams to field like an entire 11 or something with like no English players. It was like it's very accepting and accessible, as I mentioned before earlier. It doesn't really matter who you are, what you are, as long as you fit the system, you fit the system. That's what it matters. And that was something that I was kind of blind to growing up, because as I said, you look at the faces of the game back in the days. Ronaldo, I mean, he's Portuguese, but he's not necessarily white. I guess not necessarily black. I don't know. It's colorism's a different debate for a different video. But you see the guys at the top, and it's not necessarily with the white players, and you see the abundance of players anyway, but amongst all the leagues, right now you could look at Chelsea's team like Kante, Rudiger, Mendy, a lot of black players. Look at Arsenal's team, Lacazette, Aubameyang, Partey, a lot of black players, and that applies to the whole Premier League. That applies for a lot of leagues, but it kind of, even in basketball, basically, I can't think of a single non-black basketball player, but it kind of ends, starts and ends on the pitch. There's not many black managers or coaches. There's not many black referees or officials or staff or I don't know about the NBA specifically, but as far for UEFA and FIFA, there's not many black people on the board of representatives, executives. None of that outside of the pitch is like literally just black players, and what that means even on the pitch, well, like on lower league pitches, like Sunday League or whatever. Like when I was playing for a team growing up, it was like, okay, we look at someone like Thierry Henry, he's fast, pace and power. Yeah, Patrick Vieira, okay, he's pretty quick, pace and power. Therefore, you, Jordan, as an 8-year-old light-skinned black guy, you must also have these same pace and power traits. Even though me, like I feel like I like the whole strategy and tactical side of the game. I don't really care much about like scoring or assisting, but I've always seen myself as like a midfielder, like a DM, kind of like a Santi Cazorla type of role. We can't go back to the Arsenal references. I like being in the middle of the park, picking up the ball, turning, transitioning to attack, picking out nice balls, just making things go. I like being an instigator, like a little magician. Shout out to Rosiski for that one. But it's like, I was never allowed to do that growing up. It's like, oh, how fast are you? I'm like, fast enough. and say, okay, you're pretty quick, you're pretty black, so you can just go on the left, just run down the wing, don't bother tackling anyone, don't bother passing the ball, just like run, put the ball in the box, and then we'll do the rest. I never. But this is actually a massive debate in the game. To be fair, like this whole pace and power kind of associated to a black player, or like someone like Kante we call like a beast, or whereas like someone else, a white player for example, we call like very intelligent, making these very strategic balls and stuff, like good vision. You never really see a black player associated to like having good vision or good intelligence, but you always see them associated to being like paceful, powerful, strong, a beast. All these like very not discriminatory words, but it very much puts us in a box. And for me, someone who loved passing the ball, being told that I couldn't do that, being told like, "Oh, play on the wing," it kind of took a lot of passion out of it for me. It kind of took a lot of fun out of it for me. And even though I was never, that good anyway, it's not like I was going to make it to Premier League level. It's like I didn't even want to train for the team. I didn't even want to get into the squad anymore. So I just rather play in the park with my friends and enjoy it than anything else. And even though that didn't hurt my image of the game too much, like obviously I get it. You play to win, and if they see players, if the coach is an idiot, then obviously it's gonna affect the way I see the game. But that's kind of like my thoughts on like the coach in particular at that time, and also it's very hard to make it in football. I don't want to go into the business aspects too much, but it's very, very hard to come through the youth system up to the top, especially in the Premier League where the big six and a lot of the Premier League clubs have so much money. Like, why would they sign, a 22-year-old like me to eventually be good at football when they can just buy Havertz from Germany who's just going to perform right now? Well, maybe not Havertz per se, maybe not Pepe either, but there's Bruno Fernandes. Yeah, they can buy a guy like Bruno Fernandes to perform right away. So why would they bother training up certain young youths? And even though, like, again, I get it, the business side of the game, I understand it. It doesn't mean I like it. Again, I'm not going to go into the business side too much. It's not really like a big thing for me. But I do think it's very frustrating. Like, football's always been like a working class game. As I said earlier, it's accessible. All you need is a ball and a boot and a pair of boots, and you're good to go. We don't even need, you just need a ball. Right? You don't even need a ball. You can get a stone or something like anything you can kick and some defined goals. That's all you need. And it's very cheap. It's very accessible. It's doable for most people. But then when you start to introduce these like barriers and you start to make it financial implications, and you got to do these certain contracts and loaning him out there and this and that and blah blah blah, it becomes so is bureaucratic the right word? I don't know. Ash can call me out if that's the wrong word. But but like, it's become such a nuisance type of system where you don't really see the same passion in it anymore. That's again a different chat for another day. But like briefly, just so you can understand my perspective on that, it's like I kind of see players in like four different camps. The two main ones are like people that actually love the game, even like sometimes even better, they love the club, which is one thing. It's like someone like Carl Jenkinson wasn't that good sadly. Wilshere had a lot of injuries for Arsenal, but like, they loved Arsenal, the Arsenal boys, Theo Walcott, versus like someone who's just a employee or like it's just a career for them. Someone you might see like Ozil. People might disagree with that take. I think Ozil was like just more of an employee. He's kind of like, yeah, I like London, Arsenal's cool, but also I'm getting paid, so it's fine. And there's nothing wrong with being an employee. There's nothing wrong with wanting to make as much money as you can in your job if you see football as a job. But I think for someone like me who sees football as like bigger than like a normal career, it can be hurtful when you see these players that just kind of I'm getting paid a lot, so I'm just gonna stick around, or I don't know. They start playing for contracts, and it's like I want you to play to win. Like I want trophies, I want victories, I want passion on the pitch. I want to see shouting and screaming and love of the game, like the same love that I have. But there's so many players that just don't have that anymore, and that comes from the business side of the game, which we're not going to go into any further than that. But that's kind of my perspective briefly on the business side of it. But going readdressing like my love, how I transitioned out of it. I noticed the discrimination I was getting by being forced to play like on the wing, for example. I recognize the discrimination, the difficulties and challenges I would face making it any further than Sunday League level, because of the money in the game, because of the way British football at the time was kind of perceived to be. It's like you have to be tall, two backs of four. There was no space for like tiki taka. There's no space for like small guys to like make intricate balls and anything like that. I can't do that. Maybe I could have if I worked harder, but it's like I didn't really see a space for me in that system. And even if there was a space for me, I didn't think I'd be able to get it because of the discrimination I faced. And it's like, I started to look away from the game. Like the rose tinted glasses I had kind of like started to crack a little bit. In that like 2-3 year spell. Also, on top of that as well, I noticed that referees if you're a ref, you're a registered ref, you can like ref cover games. And it's like £25, £20 a game. I'm like, why am I training with a bunch of idiots I don't like? Taking orders from this coach who's an idiot. When I can just blow a whistle for an hour, take on 25 quid. That's a I can get a McDonald's meal on the way home. It's all £20 in my pocket. You can't really buy much with £20, but when you're 14, 15 years old, it's a lot of money. I was making dough. During the week, I was like selling kickouts in school. Yeah, I was living my best life. but the point is, like, my head started to turn because I started to realize that this football isn't it's not wholesome. It's still a great sport. I still love the game, but it's like it's not perfect, and nothing is. But it kind of hurt to see that because I didn't realize that things could not be. I thought football had to be. I was like, it's just a sport. It's a bunch of guys enjoying it. I didn't realize there could be more to the picture, and that's kind of where the problems are today, and that's kind of where my love hate relationship with the game uh, can be more easily visually recognized, I guess. So I have mentioned racism with the game. I'm not going to go into that in a much more depth because obviously there's racism is a massive thing, and the last video I put out was kind of tackling racism in another capacity. But I feel like it's always going to be something that constantly appears in my life just because of who I am. But briefly, you look at obviously right now it's a bit different with the Black Lives Matter players taking a knee and stuff. But in general, you look at the Italian league, you look at incidents in the Premier League, and it's like, why? It's so ridiculous because football is one of the only, well, not even football, just sports in general. It's like the only kind of sector where you'd think being black is perceived as an advantage. Like look at basketball, it's got the tallest, all the goats in basketball are the black players, all the goats in football. Well, not all the goats, because football's been a very long history of football players that have been good. But at least right now, you look at the best players in the league right now. The three top scorers last year, African players. The three top scorers the previous, well, last year before was three African players: Aubameyang, Sadio Mane, and Mo Salah. Last year during the whole COVID nonsense, who won the Golden Boot last year? Was it Jamie Vardy? I can't remember. It was. I think it was Vardy. But the point is, you see, it's a very level playing field in this sense. But it's ridiculous how racism still exists, especially in football. Because you'd think, to be fair, it does represent a large issue. Like it's not like racism in football in particular. It is more of a societal issue. Like because football is so accessible and open to everyone, you have players and fans from all over the world from different walks of life. Obviously, there's going to be a proportional bunch of idiots as there are inside the game as well outside the game. But I still think it's nasty to see, especially as I said, I had roasting to Carter for so long in the game, and you'd think it would be a bit more understandable how when it comes to race tensions and stuff in the game, more specifically because, as I said, all the best players are black at the moment, but that doesn't seem to make any sense for some people. So, yeah. So yeah, that's kind of my small take on that. But I guess the bigger sense of like where my hatred towards the game kind of comes from is the fact that footballers are starting to be seen. Well, I think they've always kind of been seen as, but it's more evident to me now than ever has been that footballers and kind of people involved in the game in any capacity are kind of given extra liberties, which I don't necessarily agree with. Like, I get it. Again, it's a game. Like, you have to separate the players and the teams and the fans to some degree because we're not all we have different agendas. But I think the biggest thing recently has been Jack Grealish. Like I don't hate Grealish. I don't know anything about him. He seems like probably a guy in real life. But I'm looking at all the controversies this guy's been involved in. He's like drink driving, breaking lockdown, crashing into other cars. I'm like, how can you actively support this? How can you want someone like that to succeed? Again, my opinion. I don't care if you like Grealish. It's all good. But I'm looking at some other player. Even I forgot his name. It was not Van Nistelrooy, I don't think. It was a classic player, and it's a classic picture of this guy like fly kicking a fan. He's like jump kicked a fan in the face. And it's like, in football, that's acceptable. In football, you're allowed to like slide tackle and break someone's legs. In football, you're allowed to call someone the N-word and punch them. Suarez bit someone. He literally bit someone. And even though I get it, passion, it's the game, blah, 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 it's still like, that is so messed up. The fact that people are allowed to do that and get away with it. I mean, yeah, okay, Suarez got a couple matches banned, yeah. Grealish was like didn't play a couple against England for a period. Okay, Kyle Walker had like a massive sex party during the national lockdown, or even like global lockdowns at the time. Invites like loads of guys and gals around to his yard and has a sex party. And people were just like, but he's a footballer. That's okay. Like that is not okay, man. If that was anyone else in any other industry, they're getting like sacked. They're getting bad references. They're getting cancelled on Twitter. But football allows all these passes, which I used to kind of overlook growing up. But now it's like my own set of morals is in like complete conflict with some of the stuff that I see in the game. Some of the racism that I see, like some of these players. Again, I mentioned John Terry, I think earlier. Like, how can you actively call this guy like, oh, Chelsea legend? Yeah, we love John Terry. He's given to the game. Like the same way like Colston outside. I don't know where the statue would be. Outside somewhere in Bristol. Yeah, came out. He did a lot of good things. Tore that statue down and said, it doesn't matter what you did to the city. You slave owner. We don't abide by that. You think the similar sort of mentality would apply in football? It's like, it doesn't matter how many goals you scored, how many assists you've given, how many shots you saved, penalties you saved. If you as an individual person, you know, are if you have traits I don't value as an individual, it's hard for me to get behind that, irrespective of what it is. The same way people say, oh, you have to separate the players from the game, you got to separate the art from the artist, you got to separate this from that. Nah, I don't have to separate anything. Like me personally, if I think you're a terrible person, I think you're a terrible person. Same reason why I don't listen to. I'm not gonna. I'll do another video on hip hop, but like I stopped listening to certain artists like Lil Uzi, Drake, Future. I'll explain that in the future, but it's like no pun intended. But it's just I think the same rules apply. I'm not gonna actively support someone, actively put someone on a pedestal because of what they delivered to the game when I simultaneously not despise. That's a crazy word, but it's like simultaneously disagree with or disapprove of their actions in the human world. You know, if you fly kick someone, if you fly kick a fan, if you're Granite Xhaka and you're swearing at fans, I don't care if you score a free kick the week later. You're bad. I can't understand by that. I can't get behind that. If you're again, I can't remember. There was a racial incident happened recently where a player was being racially abused. I think it's in the Russian league, maybe in the Italian league. He tried to walk off, and the ref like booked him. He's literally being called a monkey by like 60,000 people. You know, throwing bananas at him. All this madness. He's like, I can't imagine how difficult that is. And you're like, you know what? Forget it. I don't want to play anymore. You walk off the pitch, and the ref books him. Like, you mad? Like the ref's like, no, you can't do that. You're upset. You can't be upset for being racially discriminated against. You even see players trying to drag him back on. Like, oh, nah, to see the game out. See the game out. Like, I can't get behind that. Can't get behind that. It's ridiculous. Even like, you know, I didn't really go into in depth in this video. I didn't really want to. I tried to avoid my specific alliances in the game. But like as I said, I'm a big Arsenal fan. I used to love, you know, the Henrys, the Invincibles. I used to love the whole class of the club. We were very socially. We seem to be quite socially aware in the past, at least. Obviously, I don't know. I was 10 years old. I still had rose tinted glasses when I thought Arsenal were like the superior, the greatest of all time. But it's like, I'm looking at Arsenal now, the same way we ostracized Mesut Ozil. He speaks out about Muslims in China, and suddenly it's like, you can't play anymore. He turned down the wage cut, which I think is ridiculous. If you're asking any other employee in any other sector to take a wage cut so your rich billionaire owners can like do whatever the hell they want to do with their money, like, it's not my fault that you didn't invest your money well in the company. I've signed a contract. You have to pay me. I signed a contract saying you're going to pay me this money. You can't just change your mind. Oh, we're going through a bad spell right now. Like if that was any other employee in any other sector, no one would care. But it's like, because it's football, it's like, what? You're not accepting a pay cut. How dare you do that? You earn so much money already. You don't need to get all this extra money. Blah blah blah. And it's all this nonsense. I'm like, come on, man. Like if you, I don't know. I'm lost for word. I'm befuddled. I probably should have scripted this similar to the previous video because it's very like on the kind of stressing me out. But it's also like looking at I think the main thing for me, the main source, you know, the main kind of the stick that broke the camel's back expression I guess I could give is during the whole COVID pandemic right now, making the players play. I mean, I get it. You know, it's relatively safe to get tested frequently. Yada yada yada. There's a lot of money on the line if they don't play because of the broadcasting rights. So I get it, I understand it, but I still don't think it's right. You know, I can get something. I still disagree with it. No matter what happens, even if Arsenal win every single game from now until June or whatever, win the Premier League, win the Europa League, sign Messi on a, well, to be fair, that's not even unrealistic to sign him on like a ridiculous deal for like 20 years. Like we are becoming a retirement club. But like, even if we had the best season ever from now on, I still disagree with it. I'll still be sitting here like I can't get. I'm getting behind it. It's the one thing that I'm not actively against, but I don't agree with it because it's like you're literally forcing these players. Well, not forcing them; they can not play if they, I guess, in theory. But like you're effectively forcing them to play a game every week or several times a week. Right now, it's especially bad because it's like because the season's congested, they're playing like 3-4 times a week. It's very stressful on the body. It's very difficult to stay in shape. I'm not in the best shape of my life right now, but I know what it's like to to actively train and then to have muscle issues. It's annoying. I've recently been in a car accident. I've been doing core exercises for my back, stretching, yoga, Pilates, and stuff like that. Like I have an understanding of what fitness, how it works. And I'm like, you can't just make these players play every single day. Even beyond the fact that they're playing so many games, it's literally a global pandemic going on. It's like we don't care. Come training, come play these games. Go. You have to come into work. And I'm like, why? Why is football? Why is any sport seen as essential? And why is it so difficult? I mean, again, I get it. I understand the business side of bureaucracy. It's like you can't just cancel the league because there's so many contracts and money obligations. But it's like, why have we let it get to this point where it's so difficult to make the right decision, to do things that benefit the players, even things like having 5 subs. While I don't agree with that either, I think it kind of benefits the top 4 teams, the top 6 teams, whatever, that have the biggest, most squad depth. It's like you're saying that if you get injured, there's 3 subs. That's it. Liverpool right now have got like no defenders. The whole backline's been injured. But it's like, okay, oh well, you've got to play the game. The game's a game. And it's like obviously there are certain teams that are negatively affected by that. You look at the thing changes like VAR. There's so many things that it's like more. I mean, to be fair, VAR is not a moral issue. It's just me. I'm just angry because VAR seems to be against Arsenal. I've got no proof of that. I would love to do like a statistical analysis at some point to see what team is more adversely affected by officials and decisions and what teams benefit the most from it. It'll be interesting more from a mathematical standpoint than a football one. But it's like, yeah, fuck VAR basically. But beyond that, it's always like, wow, man. Like there's so many things that I just cannot get behind in the game nowadays. Despite my love for the game, I'm still going to continue watching it. But I sometimes feel a type of way because it's like you got to pay so much money to even watch these games. They even tried that. Was it £15 or something for a game? I think I can't remember during the whole COVID lockdown stuff. So like, since fans can't go to the stadium, you can pay £15 or whatever to watch one game. I'm like, 15 quid for one game. Do you know how crazy that is? The fact that they even thought about that for a second and actually had that running for a bit. Are you mad? £15. That's like 2 weeks. That's like 2 months of Netflix just for one football game. One, not even like that game week. One game. Crazy. Lunacy even. Like I don't even know. I don't know, man. I don't know. I just think it's crazy. And I think, to be fair, the money situation, I can go into in a bit more depth. Maybe I will in another video where people want to hear about that more. Maybe on HTT, Brian and Ashley still listening, Osman Moses, all you lot. I'm calling all you lot out because I feel like it. But, but yeah, maybe it'll be a conversation for another day. But like the business side of the game is especially interesting because it is the reason why so many of these things continue on. Like I talked about racism in a bit of kind of summatively, not really in depth, but it's like the reason why they haven't dealt with it is because it's going to affect their pockets. Why are they going to stand out and say condemn China when they make so much money from China, for example? Why are they going to come out and say if if the fans are abusing black players, you got to cancel the game? Now, technically, that is a rule. You can't actually walk off the pitch during the game if you're being like assaulted or if there's like, madness going on. It's an actual thing in the rules, but they're not going to do it because it's so difficult. It's so hard to like, reorganize. Book the game again, have to spend all this money on blah blah blah, condemning teams and doing this. It's long. They don't want to do that because it's going to affect their bottom line. They'd rather let it run. They don't care if a couple of black players are annoyed. At the moment, it's only like Rashford speaks out a bit, Sterling speaks out a bit more. I think Lukaku's talked briefly once or twice, but that's kind of it. Most players aren't really saying anything, not really doing anything. They're kind of. I mean, you can see where they stand. Obviously, I'm not going to condemn like. Well, to be fair, Sadio Mane does a lot of stuff back home in Senegal, but it's like. Some players don't really say anything, and they're not wrong to not say anything. But it's like that's kind of the point. It's like if they don't say anything, FIFA and UEFA, the FA, whatever, they're gonna be like, okay, they don't care. They don't really, there's no pressure on us to do it other than what the tweets are saying. So it's not gonna. They'd rather protect their bottom line. And yeah, I mean that is technically speaking, the money side is the overarching issue. A lot of it comes from the fact that it's driven by money. But for me, I don't know. It's very weird. I'm still gonna watch the game. I say it's a love-hate relationship. I don't. It's more of a ongoing moral battle that I'm still trying to think about whether or not I want to continue supporting the game as a whole. It's hard to just stop. Like Arsenal is something that's very much part of my identity. I feel like Arsene Wenger was a manager of the club since before I was even. So the camera kind of died on me a minute ago. I can't remember what I was saying. Something to do about Arsene Wenger, but I was like, I've been a fan of the game for such a long time. Arsene Wenger was manager of the club since like '97. I was born '98. He was literally there my whole life up until the last 2 or 3 years when he left. So I've obviously got a strong connection, not just to Wenger, obviously, but to Arsenal, also to the game. A lot of like figures have played a huge part in my life. I remember like watching the game every. When I'm going for like a bad spell, it seems when I'm like personally going for like a bad spot in life, it's like that's exactly when Arsenal start to perform. Got like a 22 game unbeaten run under Emery or something. I'm like, yes, really picking me up from the ground right now. Like I have a strong connection to the club and to the game, so it's gonna be difficult to like just outright stop watching it because of a couple of issues that I might kind of have that aren't necessarily real, aren't necessarily tangible. But yeah, that's kind of my overall take. It's not really much more I can say. The camera's also dying, so I'll speed run this just in case. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. It is weird. The whole racism thing is something that's got to be dealt with. The whole business side is going to be something that's better refined. I have no problem immediately with like the fact that business is involved with it. I get it. It's money kind of controls everything, but I do want it to be better controlled. The same way the contracts should be better controlled. To be better regulations about how these things work, and the money should be better divvied up between all the lower teams. I'd rather we operate on like a NBA style system where just you pick players out of a pool versus. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of defeats. It makes it less competitive as well. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I do want to see more passion and less employees in the game, especially young players. I think if you're below a certain age, I think this is very controversial to say, but I think there should be some sort of pay. I don't want to say it, but some sort of limit. Because otherwise, if you're young, if you're 21 years old and suddenly you're like getting 200k a week, like you're opening the door for madnesses to happen. Like it makes it very difficult. It's also unfair if you cap them at like 20k a week and you see other guys earning way more than them. Especially someone like Saka, for example, at Arsenal. He might be saying that, look, I'm 19, I'm getting 20k a year. I'm getting 20k a week. Whereas like Nico Pepe, he's half as good as I am. He's getting paid 10x more than me. Why is that the case? Like, I understand the issues there. I understand it's a fine line to walk. But that's why I say it should be better regulated, not necessarily like strict blanket rules for everyone. But I don't. It's very hard to deal with. I don't know enough about the business side to address it in a comprehensive, in a fair way, which is why I kind of avoided it for the most part of this video. But the racism one's definitely a big thing for me. The business I can do some work, and contract stuff that can do some work, but that's a different one. The main thing I guess I didn't really talk about that I alluded to, but I didn't really go into in depth is like the way we treat these players, and the way we allow them to get away with madness, especially someone like Grealish again. No, I don't. I'm not trying to attack him individually. I don't actually know anything about the guy. He's probably calm in real life, but I'm looking at the things these players get away with just on the back of being players. I know Callum Hudson-Odoi. I don't want to bring this up because I know I think he got away with it as far as I know. Not got away with it, but I think he was found to be innocent in the issue. But you see a bunch of players getting involved with like rape cases or tax avoiding cases, like Messi and Ronaldo, both individually caught avoiding taxes. The same guys that scream at Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and these billionaires, avoiding tax corporations are evil corporations. Everywhere. I want to see you down talking to Cristiano Ronaldo about all of that. This guy that left Spain to Italy just to save a couple mil on. I don't know. Allegedly. I don't know if that's true. That's alleged. Ronaldo, I think his rape cases were all he was found innocent for all of them. As far as I know, he didn't do anything according to the evidence. But I want to hear people keep that same energy with R. Kelly. Then, if that's the case, I don't f with R. Kelly. I don't listen to any of that nonsense. But the same way with R. Kelly is not alleged. There's videos, so he must have done it. I want to see that same energy with football players. Grealish actually was drunk during lockdown, driving his car, could have killed someone. Thankfully, he didn't kill anyone. I don't even think he was hurt in the crash. But it's like he smashed his car. I think he was like reversing out on that crash into all the other cars behind him because he's an idiot. Where's the energy there? Where's the energy there? Like it's hard for me to overlook these shortcomings of players. Maybe that's just me. I do want to hear what you guys think. So if you have any conflicting or similar thoughts, what's the opposite of conflicting? I don't know. But whether you agree or disagree, I want to hear what you have to say. Find a corner somewhere down there in the comments. This one is thankfully my corner. I'm gonna go outside now, kick some ball. But I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you one in the next, guys. One more thing. One more thing. Hold on. I'm an idiot. I'm not doing this very well. I need something to put here to complete my set. Let's just make it this shirt. Bruce Banana kit. Shout out again. The greatest kit of all time. I guess the original one was actually a bit nicer, but it's all good. Bruce Banana out here in front of you. One more thing. one more thing. And this is a huge deal as well. I think something that I actually completely overlooked, but it came back to me today, a couple of days later. Sort of William Saliba incident. I'm not gonna get the video up. Obviously, if you don't know what it is, it's basically uh, Saliba's sitting next to a guy who's performing a sexual act on himself, and he's like recording it on his phone. It's very kind of messed up. But that's one thing that I actually completely overlooked, but it's very big, not just to me, but also to a lot of, I think, the Asian community, Muslims, I think, are especially subject to this. I'm not going to speak on behalf of them, but it's not really my place. I'm not a Muslim. I don't understand. I'm not an active part of the community, but something that I see and I recognize, and I wish that I wish I could hear more about it from people that also see from that community, the more Eastern. People. But it's like the whole idea of, lad culture, of changing room culture, of squeaky bum time, of all this weird stuff, man. Like I never had it. I mean, I don't think anyone's had it that bad. Salim is a proper ball playing centre back that was caught ball watching in that clip, man. That's the But oh my gosh, like that is so nuts. I think that's such a big deterrent to so many young kids. Imagine you're walking into a room. I remember the FA. When was this? FA. I'm not going to search that actually, but I remember there was a big thing about the way managers and coaches were like treating the kids, and it was kind of like a common thing to like players walking past, oh, good game, hit their butt. It's all this like weird stuff that I never had it again. I never had it to me, but I remember seeing guys in the changing room like doing that. I don't want to be in. That's nasty, disgusting. I don't want to be involved in that. And I get it. Again, I get it. It's to them it's funny. It's a laugh. It's a ha. The guys. But being in such a male-dominated space, especially in football, where it's like you don't really hear about gay footballers. You don't really hear about mental health issues in football. And I think that stems from toxic masculinity, but it's also something that's so prevalent in these changing rooms. That's so difficult for so many young players, so many foreign players, so many guys that don't understand that. Because I feel like it's a very UK thing. I mean, obviously, William Saliba's French, and I guess in and around Europe, maybe it happens a bit as well. But I think that's more so because of football as opposed to, like anywhere where you are in the world. But I do think that's obviously that football's been around here for longer. The Premier League, these leagues have been around for a very, very long time. If you're coming from a country where it's not popular, it's not like a big thing, and then you're coming straight into a locker room where guys are doing all this weird stuff, man. That's such a deterrent. And I mentioned the Muslim community and like the Sikhs and the more Eastern religions, and it's like I remember talking to a friend about it once, and he was saying like, because obviously he has to wear a headscarf, and it's like the whole idea of like pranks on guys. Someone's like took his headscarf off, and if they thought it was funny, they would have joked around, thrown it around. But that's messed up, man. That's so messed up. And that's another thing that kind of worries me about football. To be fair, that's more of down to the players. That's more of a thing that we can address. I'm not going to like stop watching football because I see the nonsense that's going on, but I do think it's something that we need to better scrutinize. It needs to be better. I don't think it should be regulated or there shouldn't be any laws about it. That's kind of ridiculous. But I think the players themselves have to take responsibility, have to take accountability for the things that they do and for what goes on in the dressing rooms. And I'm not saying it should be like a super safe space where people can do what they want and everyone can be like, oh, super good friends, jolly. I'm not saying that. I don't want to take the fun out of it. But at the same time, people need to, be respectful and understanding of people's cultures and understand that there are certain things you just can't do. There are some things you just can't do. Irrespective of, it's in a changing room, no one's going to see it. Like, I don't care, bro. You don't be doing that. Because there are so many other guys in there that might not get behind that. It's a toxic environment. I'm not going to go into any more depth. I already recorded like 2 hours or so worth of content I'm going to have to cut through for you guys. But Saliba, man. Saliba, however it's pronounced. Nah. It just shines a light again on the issues within the game, and something that I didn't touch on. I'm not going to touch on any more depth than I already have. But yeah, we got to take a second look at that. We got to, especially in PE and like in schools, we have to look at how people treat each other. because I remember changing in the change rooms. Like the teachers obviously went out because obviously we're kids. It makes sense, but at the same time, there needs to be something. There needs to be something. Guys get away with a lot of nonsense, and it's got to be addressed. It's got someone's. I think whatever. That's what kind of what I've got to say. Because I haven't got a solution to this problem. I just think it's crazy. But yeah, shout out again to the Bruised Banana. This was the only Puma kit that I liked, so I bought it. But yeah, whatever. I'm not.